While North Carolina is under a state of emergency, controls against price gouging are in effect. Joining us now for more on that is the State Attorney General Josh Stein. Good to see you, Mr. Attorney General. Thanks for joining us. I know you were swamped probably. What times? We're doing this via Skype tonight. One of our probably our more unusual interviews we've had over the years.
Well, Tim, I thank you for being there and educating the people about what's going on. So much appreciated.
So how busy has it been? What is your office tackling day to day here?
We're dealing with a range of things. On the scams and fraud side, we are aggressively enforcing North Carolina's price gouging law, which has been in effect for more than 2 weeks now. And we've had more than 450 complaints. They range from groceries, cleaning products, hand sanitizers. Just today, we announced that we sent out investigative demands to 9 different sellers on Amazon. They collectively made over $100,000 selling N95 masks. So we're aggressively enforcing the price gouging law, and we're trying to educate the public about all the scammers that are coming out of the woodwork to try to steal people's money.
So I've always been curious about this, where the line is on price gouging. How do you determine if it's price gouging or not?
Well, it requires an investigation. The law states that it's illegal to charge an unreasonably excessive price on a product or good service that's necessary for life. And what we have to do is when we get a complaint of price gouging that a price has gone up, we have to determine, did it go up for good cause? Did the underlying expenses of the business increase to justify the price increase? Sometimes it does. If a retailer goes out there and has to pay a premium in order to get more hand sanitizer in to serve their buying public, then that's a legitimate price increase. If they had a caseload of it out back and they just decided to slap a higher price on to make a quick buck, that's price gouging.
So I'm not expecting numbers or anything, but you had 450 complaints. I mean, is it a wide range of whether the legitimate complaints, and I imagine it takes time to investigate all of these?
It does. We wish we could just snap it out right away, but it doesn't work that well, work that quickly, because you have to do an investigation. You have to see, does the business have an explanation for the prices they were charged? And did the consumer actually get the accurate information to us on the front end? And so it requires time, and that's why we've sent out a number of investigative demands. We want to get to the bottom of the complaints so we can determine whether the law was broken or not. If it was broken, we will aggressively enforce it, just as we have in the wake of other emergencies here in North Carolina.
All right, so you also, one of your press releases is talking about fighting for emergency relief for student loan borrowers during this. Talk about that some.
Yeah, that's the other part of the work we're doing, is this economic jolt is going to be incredibly painful for millions of North Carolinians and hundreds of millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Americans. And so we want to make sure that folks don't get hurt simply because they lost their income through no fault of their own. So we've asked the Department of Education to not collect on student loans. We've asked city and county water and power utilities to not shut off people's utilities because of non-payment. I'm getting ready to write the FHFA up in Washington on housing to urge the loan servicers to have forbearance agreements where they essentially pause people's mortgage payments to help them through this tough time. So there's ways in which I'm trying to help out people who are going to be struggling economically as a result of this crisis.
I'm assuming you're teaming up with some other attorneys general. Do you expect to get a positive response from Washington on this and soon?
No. I think so. I think that, look, we all recognize this is beyond precedent. There's nothing like this where we have just flicked a light switch off on the American economy. 3.3 million people filed for unemployment insurance last week. That's just an absolute mind-boggling number. And so people are going to be without income. I tip my hat. Congress looks like today they're going to pass today or tomorrow, the relief bill, which is going to help people, but it's not going to make people whole. People are still going to be struggling. There's people out there who are hungry and need of food. And so we're trying to do everything we can, as is Washington, to try to soften the really severe economic blow people are going to feel.
We put up sort of a hotline for questions as well, not only for this show, but for the podcast and in general. One of the questions I got a couple times with people that are concerned that they're not working right now, and they're going to have landlords that are going to demand rent, or mortgage, moving forward. What's your advice to those folks on how to handle that concern? Because it's obviously a big one for a lot of people across this state and the country.
Yeah, and we're in discussions with the Apartment Association here in North Carolina, and I just said how we're writing the mortgage companies to reach them to have to really have sympathy for people's financial plight. People, they have their contracts that they have to pay their lease or they have to pay their mortgage. They should immediately get in touch with their landlord or their mortgager, their servicer, and say, look, this is my situation. I got a pink slip. I don't have the income to pay you. It is not in the interest of the bank to foreclose, and it's not in the interest of the apartment owner to evict somebody. And by the way, I want to thank the Chief Justice. She's put a pause on all evictions temporarily for the next month here in North Carolina. But the property owners, the landlords, they really should be working with their tenants, because they don't want to have an empty unit that they have to rent when we get on the other side of this crisis.
So one of the other questions I had from someone, and that I've seen in my own text messages and my own emails, I mean, it's not good normally, but it's disgusting to see some of the scams that are out there right now. What are you most concerned about with those, and your advice for folks on that too?
Well, folks are scared, reasonably scared. They're fearful. A lot of people, particularly seniors, they're just cooped up in their home all day. And there are bad people who are reaching out to them by phone call, by text, by email, social media. We've even had reports of door to door. Most people are bending over backward to help their neighbors, but there are a greedy few who will use any crisis like the coronavirus to try to steal people's money. So we just urge people, do not fall to scams that come to you. Understand that bad people are going to try to give you testing kits, say that your neighbors are infected and you need to give them money to get you antibiotics, or you need to get insurance, or your ducts, air ducts are dirty and they can clean out the coronavirus, or they have a miracle cure or vaccine. There are all these pitches. They sound too good to be true because they are. If anyone hears some kind of communication, whether it's by phone, email, whatever, whether they have any question, just call my office, please. 877-5-NO-SCAM. It's so much better to prevent the loss of money than it is to try to get it back.
Mr. Attorney General, I know you are busy. Best wishes to you, your staff, and importantly, your family as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim, thanks for all you do.
Absolutely.